Item number 5, ordinance number 2011-100. This is for immediate consideration. Amending Chapter 62, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, Article 4, Offenses against Public Health and Morals of the Code of Ordinances, is hereby amended by adding wearing of pants below the waist in public.
Move for immediate consideration.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay. Any discussion?
A few items I would like to go over.
Let's move it to we need to move this forward so we can vote.
Okay.
So then you can have your discussion. All right. Any discussion on this? All in favor say yay.
Yay.
All opposed say nay. Okay. We need a motion and a second.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right. Before we have discussion, we have a privilege of the floor, and Terry Lassiter would like to speak on this item. Mr. Lassiter, if you come up and keep it to 3 minutes, I would be grateful.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I live in District 3, and we have a very big problem in District 1, 2, and 3. District 4, 5, and 6, you don't see it every morning like I do. You don't walk down or drive down East Selma Street and see what I see every morning. And the ones that live in District 1, 2, and 3 knows what I'm talking about. Young men, white, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter, walking down the street with their pants down to their knees. It's disgusting. It is. And it's time that our commissioner and our mayor becomes leaders of our city and clean up Dothan. We're asking for ammunition. That's what we're asking for in District 1, 2, and 3. If we have an ordinance, then we can call the police and say, look, we're not going to have this in our community. We're not going to have this on our streets. Let me ask you something. Districts 4, 5, and 6, and Mayor, if you woke up Sunday morning and you had your grandkids or your little daughters out in your front yard, and these kids started walking down in front of your house with their pants down to their knees, with their blooming butts showing and their underwear showing, wouldn't that be disgusting to you, and you'd take your youngins back inside? I would. I wouldn't have my daughter to look at something like that. So I'm asking, District 3, District 1, and District 2 is asking for you to give us some ammunition to fight this and to beat it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Any discussion from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, here is a letter that I wrote to the Dothan Eagle, February the 7th, 2001. That's over 10 years ago. And there are some who say, well, it's just a fad. It will go away.
Yeah.
This was when the school of choice, and I'd just like to take the time and read it. This letter is 10 years old, and it's from the Dothan Eagle, and it's entitled, One Man's Opinion on How to Fix Our Schools. I once worked for a millionaire, Mr. Charles Wood, an adopted child with very humble beginning. Mr. Wood often related to me that anyone can identify a problem. However, having a solution to the problem is the key to success. The decline of student enrollment in the Dothan City school system is not busing, nor is it racial. Parents are removing their children from public schools because they feel their children are not learning what is needed to properly function in a post-secondary school setting. In my opinion, the Dothan City School Board of Education has the authority and the power to alleviate this dilemma. In order for learning to take place, a learning environment must first be established. The solution is tenfold. Teachers should have complete control of their classrooms. The public, the school board, the superintendent, and the principal all should have input, but ultimate control of a classroom should rest with the teacher. I am a firm believer that sparing the rod spoils a child. Like parents should feel comfortable having their children disciplined by white teachers, and vice versa, white parents should feel comfortable having their children disciplined by black teachers. Now this gets to the meat of it. It takes an entire community to raise a child. The system needs a dress code. Students should not be allowed to wear pants strapped below their buttocks nor should boys be allowed to wear hats or caps inside the school building. A gentleman always remove his hat when on the inside. Girls should be required to wear socks or stockings. Dresses, skirts, and pants should be appropriate in length. Students should not be allowed to sleep in class. Students who cannot read or write or grasp the material at the appropriate level should be identified, and parents or guardians should be notified. Remedial training should be scheduled after school, even if this entails Saturday morning classes. Students should not be allowed to participate in extracurricular activities if their grades are not up to par. Students should give utmost respect to teachers regardless of their parents' influence within the community. Parents need to be educated on the importance of being involved in their children's school through the PTO and other organizations. There should be a program for gifted students regardless of their financial background. Having implemented these criterions, teachers should be held accountable. The state of Alabama has one of the nation's highest and most stringent exit examinations, which one must pass in order to receive a high school diploma. Yet Alabama ranks next to last in the nation on the amount of money spent on education per capita for each student. It is my opinion that the time and effort spent by our local school board currently building new schools and promoting the Schools of Choice program should have been spent on the governor and our legislators lobbying for money to invest more money in educating our children. Last but not least, it is my opinion that school teachers nationally are grossly underpaid. If teachers were adequately compensated, there would not be a recruiting problem. I read the whole letter because this is not a fad that's going to go away. This was 10 years ago, and it was published in the Eagle. Secondly, I'm asking this commission, let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. As the gentleman just said, most of the people that I represent, when they get up in the morning, this is what they see. And I asked several business people, would you hire an individual who walked in your establishment with his pants below his butt? Say no. But we have to get the right message. Now, Dothan would not be the only city with a saggy pants ordinance. The city of Selma has just passed this ordinance. And Selma, Alabama, politically is controlled by black folks. They just recently had a black mayor, so it's not racial profiling. I think this problem will be cleared up if an officer says, young man, pull up your pants. Most restaurants in this city, they have signs already. They refuse to give you service if you come in their establishment with your pants below your waist. Now the first one, we said it was 3 inches. Now we have it down to 12. If you're wearing your pants from your ilium 12 inches below, then you need to show your butt. And where this started was in prison.
It did.
It started in prison. In other words, if you were incarcerated and you were gay or whatever, then you wore your pants. But this is just the wrong message. And these are just several clippings from around, not only in Dothan. This is a town in Louisiana, but they have an ordinance. Selma has an ordinance. The city of Atlanta has an ordinance. And these are saggy pants ordinance from throughout the wiregrass here. Here's one from Cottonwood. I have one here. That's the one Selma. Here's another one from Dothan. These are, and if you get on the internet, it's several. But just please, let's get the right message to our young people. We can do better than this, and this is my plea. And I will be the first one. I will be the first one if something comes up. Commissioner Curtin and I talked about this yesterday. I will be the first one on the scene if something happens to quail whatever comes up. But we, society, sets a message on what's acceptable and what's not. This is just, we can do better than this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, I have some comments to make. I originally told Commissioner Redding that I would vote for this. But after doing deliberate consideration, I find I can't. Some of them, the problems with this is that it covers only young men. As I was told last night by a dear lady, go to Walmart's and look at the people. Look at the men, their breeches are below where they ought to be. Their underwear is showing. Look at the women. Their bras are showing, their pants are showing, they're wearing skirts too short, etc., etc. So if we're going to pass this, then it needs to be something that covers everybody, not just young men. And not only that, if you pass this, you're going to set it up for us to be sued for racial profiling because 98% of these people are young men and they're black. Now, the other thing about it is, if you read this law, and it says that if you appear in public wearing pants more than 12 inches below the top of the hips, this is the crest of the ilium. I don't know how many of you know where the ilium is. I didn't even know I had one till. And I often wondered for a while if I had to have a permanent hat to carry. But aside from that, it happens to be the very top of the crest of the hip bone. And if you measure 12 inches down, it throws generally on most of us to the middle of the hip. I mean the middle of the calf. Now, I thought the purpose of this was to get people to bring their britches up. If we're going to burden our police with going out to check where the britches are 12 inches below this, then I find it insufferable. And the chief of police will have to issue every policeman a tape measure. So I can't vote for it under those circumstances, and I'm sorry.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
let me walk through a possible scenario. I'm told, and as I know, there is no local ordinance in place that covers indecent exposure. Is that correct? Our ordinance.
State law.
Our ordinance is based on a state law. Does the state law not cover indecent exposure?
Yeah. Not like this.
Indecent exposure is exposure of the genitalia.
Step to the podium, Chief.
Chief just said,
The indecent exposure law, and it concerns the genitalia.
Not the buttock. Okay. So, if Mr. Lassiter notices someone walking in front of his property, off of his property on a public street, then that would not go against the state law.
Not the
the police could not require a young man to pull the britches up, so to
By
speak.
state, no, there's no state law concerning that.
Correct.
I'm asking for a state law.
I believe the state law addresses two areas of
We're
the
asking for
body.
a city ordinance.
Esther?
I prefer to read that.
I just want to make sure we're not trying to be redundant.
A person's guilty of public lewdness if he exposes his anus or genitals in a public place.
Okay. Much has been said about wearing of pants below the waist in public, and I applaud Commissioner Redding for bringing this to the commission. In his heart, this has been a passionate subject for him, and I can understand exactly where he's coming from. And I've received numerous phone calls, I'm sure as most of the commissioners have, that would like to see something done by the commission.
Oh, man, that's good.
And at the same time, I've received a lot of comments from constituents who don't understand how we're going to enforce it. Are we setting ourselves up for possible racial profiling in terms of a lawsuit? So, I mean, those are all good questions to consider, you know, before considering this ordinance before us. But I mean, I have to concur with Commissioner Craig. I mean, if we're going to address saggy pants, why not address the rest of it as well? That tends to be a problem in our society. I initially spoke with you, Commissioner Redding, and again, I appreciate your openness. I appreciate your passion for this. But if we're going to address indecent exposure by a saggy pants ordinance, then let's consider the other things that Commissioner Craig spoke of also, which includes lewdness as well. I mean, everyone has their own opinion, so I don't know where we stop, Mayor. I really don't know where we stop, but I do know this: when someone wears their breeches below their waist, I mean, it is undesirable. It is very undesirable.
I concur with what the commissioner says. The idea behind this is very valid and very good. The enforcement of it is what bothers me. Commissioner Redding to be commended for it. There are those people in town who are for it. There are those people who are diametrically opposed to it for the reasons that we've just stated. So it's something that if we're going to pursue this, we need to go back and clean this up and do something different.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's obvious that right now we don't have 4 votes. But will somebody on this commission, maybe we can table it, but we need to do something.
That's right.
Well, we have a motion and a second on this. We have to vote on this. So whether we have the 4 votes or not, we need to find out.
Mayor, I do have an alibi. I think I voted for immediate consideration and voted for approval because I wanted to discuss it in public. I felt like that Commissioner Redding, you were due that respect.
Any other discussion? I agree with one of the main item you talked about in your editorial 10 years ago. This is about education. This is about our school system. This is about changing the hearts and minds of young men and women in our community. And we are losing our young people in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. We've got to change that. We not only have to address this, but it's the big picture that this community, if we want to move forward and have the community and have the young men and women that go to Harvard, we've got to make a commitment to change the education and the involvement in this community that's part of the education. So at this point, if there's no other discussion.
No, one comment.
Okay.
We thank Mr. Lassiter.
Absolutely.
Comments. But with all respect, I think we are barking up the wrong tree. I think we need to look, and I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, we need to bark up the educational tree. Again, we need to put our efforts on educating our kids and our community. That is where we need to put the emphasis. The tree we are barking up does not help a person get a job. It does not make that person any more economically self-sufficient. Mr. Lassiter, I'm glad you have an interest, and I would hope all the efforts that you have will be put in helping educate, again, educate our kids and our community. And Mr. Redden, I think you are close enough to the problem to know that the basic problem, the main problem in our community is education. We have to admit that. And if you put the effort in educating our kids as you put in here, certainly I will do so. But education is the key. Without education, the criminal tree that we are barking up will not help us tomorrow or the next day. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Can I say something?
No, sir.
Okay.
We sure need to pray for our school board as they choose a new school superintendent, that we would get the right person, we'd have somebody strong and be able to lead us in the right direction with these problems. That's my opinion. We definitely need a strong school superintendent at this time, so let's pray for our school board that they do the right thing, choose the right person.
Let me add one thing. I appreciate it, and I am super behind anybody to get into proper education. One of the things I have pushed since I've been a commissioner is education. But this isn't an educator's problem, this is a home problem. It starts with parents, it starts with grandparents, and it starts with us as people setting an example
And as
for
a
these
community.
kids. So it will take part of the educational system to help it, but the educational system is not that problem. Their problem is educating the kids, and they're not doing a very good job of that.
Nope.
Thank you.
Let me say this. When the kids are in school, they adhere. Their pants are up. I had a lady call me the other day. She said, Commissioner Redding, there's 2 young men go to Dothan High. When they leave from their home in the mornings, the pants are up. Before they get a block away, walking to school, she said, I've stood in my yard and watched. They pull them down. But once inside the confines of the school, they're adhering to the law. And my only concern, I'm old school. I know what it takes to be successful. God has blessed my wife and I haven't hit a lick at a snake since I was 60, and I'm 72 years old. I've been blessed. But the upbringing, I was raised in a single parent household. There are just some things my mother did not allow. They got divorced in 1954. I graduated from high school in 1956. All I'm asking is we as a society, let's just do the right thing. Nobody is going to go out and try to polarize this community. We're not trying to do that. We are just trying to say, young man, this is what you've got to do if you want to function in life. There are rules and regulations that you have to adhere to. And it's obvious for 10 years. It's not a fad that's going to go away. I read you the letter from 10 years ago. It's gotten worse. So when do we draw a line in the sand? Those are my final comments.
Not man enough.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say yay.
Yay.
All opposed say nay. All right,